Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hello, my name is Tara Skubella, and I live in Delta, Colorado, on the western slope of Colorado, on a small private farm. And I'm 50 years old, really excited to be stepping into this phase of my life. And I am so excited to share my story about a spiritual awakening that was birthed from a survival experience. And I want to take you back to a point that's actually kind of my beginning point of my journey. And I was in a very unhealthy marriage, and I was searching for something. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew that my purpose on this earth was beyond what I was doing at the time. I was working in social services with post-adopted families, which you think is very rewarding, and it really was, but I knew that there was something else aligned for me. And so I was sitting with this in this unhealthy marriage, and I was writing a blog for having adult ADHD. And this casting company found me and they outreached to me, and they encouraged me to apply for a television show that they were casting for called Naked and Afraid. And I didn't know what the television show was because I'm not much of a TV watcher. And this was back in 2014. So early on when this particular show was just kind of beginning. And I also have a background in wilderness survival and wilderness therapy. And I thought this is a great opportunity for me to test my survival skills. And so I applied for the show and I was cast very quickly. And at the time I asked permission from my husband to be able to do this television show. And normally he was not up for things like this, but for whatever reason, the universe aligned and he's like, yes, you should do it. I was like, so exciting for me. So I ended up in a survival situation in Panama, off in the Pearl Islands on the Pacific side of Panama, a particular island called Isla San Jose, so Island San Jose. And I was pretty much thrown into the middle of the island in a jungle scenario. And this particular show, the whole concept is no clothes. So just as the title of the television show says, Naked and Afraid. Nicely, I was pretty lucky. I was not afraid at any point in my survival challenge. But you learn to survive and to adapt and overcome. And the removal of your clothes really helps you also tune into the environment. So now I'm going to kind of switch and come from maybe perhaps a more spiritual component of this journey and my survival experience. Until this point, I had no spiritual practices. I was going in with the mindset of I'm going to survive. You know? and put my skills to the test. And I definitely did that. But while I was out there, my energy really shifted and I became so in tune with Mother Earth and such a different level. At this point, I had over 600 nights underneath the stars, backpacking, spending time and personal quests, solo time outside, guiding other people. But this was really different. And looking back now, I really feel like the universe gave me this gift to just stop and just be so deeply in the present moment. And that really allowed me to reset my body, my mind, and my spirit for what was going to unfold after this challenge. And so I made it through the 21 days with my partner. It was a very profound experience. At the end, I left very humbled and regrounded and reset to who I was meant to be on this earth, although I didn't quite know it yet. That's coming up here in a few moments. And so after I left Panama and landed back home, it took me quite a while to kind of transfer that energy because I had lost a lot of weight. We had a really good water source, but not food, and my body was very weak. And so my mind was very weak as well. And it took a few weeks, about two and a half weeks, for me to start feeling nourished again. And at this time, I started to feel very open. And I will use the word channeling messages from the universe, channeling knowledge, like a complete download. And because I had no spiritual practice, I didn't even know what was happening to me at the time. It was this very blissful, in tune, intuitive state that I experienced for about 3 weeks. And at the beginning of this phase, I reached out to a dear friend of mine, and I confided in her, and her name's Jamie. And I said, Jamie, this is what's happening to me. I don't know what's going on. And I was really drawn to meditation and chakra work. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just being guided intuitively and exploring. And she said, it sounds like you're having a spiritual awakening. And I had no idea what this was. And so what's that? And what do we do in modern times? We go to Google. And so I read a little bit about this from different people around the world. And I like, this is what's happening to me. And during this process, I knew that I had to leave my unhealthy marriage. I'm also a mother, so I was very mindful about this and knew I was going to plan this dissolving of my marriage at a certain time in the future. But at this time, during my spiritual awakening, my body, my mind, my heart, my energy channels were fully open, and it was just like a yes, 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 I will follow. I am here. Whatever unfolds, I know that it is meant to be. And I just went with the flow of this. And my spiritual awakening was about three to 4 weeks. And then over time, that can dissipate a little bit with that download of knowledge and opening of the energy centers. And in time, I did end up leaving my marriage, and I was seeking something now intentionally. I was seeking more knowledge, and I didn't know where to begin. And so I confided in another friend, and they suggested the pathway of Tantra, and I had no idea what Tantra was. And especially back now, it was at 2015 is when I did my challenge. So early on in the year in 2015. And back then, when you Googled Tantra, it was much more different than now because it was all focused on sexuality and sex and what you would come across didn't really resonate with me. But I was referred to a particular woman, and I ended up taking a course with her, a retreat in Denver, Colorado. And that happened to be in May of 2015. And that was my first exposure to Tantra. And Dawn Cartwright, who's out of California, led and guided that retreat. And the first day of that retreat, I knew that that's why I was here on this earth, was to help people connect through this spiritual pathway of Tantra to weave into our daily life. And I also learned in that retreat that it wasn't just about sacred sexuality. It's about so much more, and that's only a tiny little piece of Tantra. Tantra is all inclusive. And this really opened up my heart and all of me to a new way to living, very consciously, very mindfully. And from there, I studied with some other people, and I found myself a year later in Thailand in a month-long immersion program to teach other people and to guide other people. And I think the one thing that I feel really good about and that aligns me with my experiences, I weave in the nature-based healing. I don't use the word shaman. I'm very respectful for who are true shamans on this earth. I'm not one at all. I don't claim to be one. But I do have a pretty in tune background, being an outdoor guide, wilderness therapy, and seeing and witnessing how Earth, how Gaia, how Pachamama can reset and reground us through other people that I've served early on in my adulthood, in my career, and then for myself on a different level. And so this beautiful journey of taking me through a time in my life where I was really unsure about myself. I kind of lost myself. I found myself in an unhealthy marriage, not knowing what to do. And even looking back at that time, my husband was unwilling to journey with me. And it's really hard sometimes to separate ourselves from the path that we are currently on to create that new road. And I don't regret anything. That particular relationship had a purpose. That was to bring my daughter home. And so just a really beautiful journey, all encompassing. And so now I'm on this new road of my path and sharing Tantra with other people and helping people come back to our roots and growing and connecting with nature.
What an amazing journey you've been on, Tara. This is just absolutely incredible. Now, as I listen to your story, I'm curious to know what the experience in the wilderness was like, because something happened when you were there. I sense there was something that happened. Take us through step by step what happened when you arrived, your initial reaction and response to the environment. Share that experience with us a little bit.
Yes. So to give maybe like a little bit of context before, I'm very comfortable and was very comfortable being in nature and surrendering to her. I spent probably over 600 nights underneath the stars beforehand. And so sleeping outside, being around predators or bugs didn't really bother me. So that part was not fearful at all for me. I felt actually at home. I've probably felt more at home in that 21 days than I have any other time in my entire life. It was very raw and very beautiful. And when I entered the jungle, it was like a birthing experience, as I look back on it now. And all of the palms and all of the different sounds, just really beautiful, very vibrant greens. And when we ended up at our location, just a very deep, rich jungle soil, high canopy, shaded. It was very volatile as well. So the production crew, before we started filming the challenge, was attacked by killer bees, and the production director was actually flown off the island and had to be taken to a hospital because they were stung over 200 times. It was a very, very serious situation. We were given the opportunity to leave or to stay and film. And I chose to stay. I hadn't met my partner at the time. We were separated before. So I went into this challenge knowing that it could potentially take my life. Because all of the people who were stung had clothes on, right? And we didn't have any clothes on. So it was very dangerous. But for whatever reason, I was really able to surrender to that raw, primal energy that I was walking into. And with my skill set, I felt confident in that space. So.
Wow. Wow. The experience of being naked for 21 days and having a camera follow you every single day. What was that like?
It's funny, really, if you think about it.
Oh.
It's very vulnerable.
Had you ever done anything like that before?
No, nothing like this before. I mean, actually, I being naked in nature, it was something I didn't practice very often, but discarding my clothes, showering in nature, dipping in water, was something that was just more neutral for me. But with people following you around, it is much different. And I'll say at first, because there is very little interaction between us and the production crew. And I remember I think it was one of the camera people said that they were so used to seeing people naked all the time. And, you get it dirty and you don't care anymore. And if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The bottom piece of, do you have food, shelter, are your base? Yeah. You don't care about the other stuff because that's where you're living most of the time out there.
Wow. Wow. Now, so you came out of this and you started getting these downloads. Explain what that feels like. A lot of people are having information passing through them and they have no idea what's actually going on. They don't know how to harness it, how to work with that energy. What was it like for you?
Yes, I feel like I was given a gift before my spiritual awakening because I started my gift very grounded. When I experienced my awakening, I was not, even though my energy centers were open, and I actually call it a Kundalini awakening. And so while I was receiving information, I experienced a lot of visions. They actually happened for quite some time. It was a little scary for me because I didn't know much about this. But because I started this process very grounded and very centered, I was able to trust, right? And so our trust over fear is housed within the root chakra, which is connected to the element of earth. So I was given this gift almost sequentially of, okay, you need to ground, you need to be earth, you need to be connected to the earth in order for this next phase of your life to happen. And that's what I was given. I feel really lucky. Everything that was presented and everything that I knew I had to do, I did.
Now, you said Kundalini awakening. The thing that jumps to mind for me is Kundalini. I think there's a drug that you take. Did you take anything? Did you drink any herbs? Explain the concept of Kundalini so our viewers can understand.
Yes. And so my perspective is coming from a tantric Kundalini background. And so when I refer to this, it's the opening of the chakras of our energy centers, our energy wheels. And for this conversation, we'll just refer to the kind of typical 7. So there's one in the root, which is in Tantra. It's actually the opening of our body, the opening of our temple, the tip of a lingam or a penis, the opening of the vagina, or the yoni. So those are Sanskrit names for this parts of our body. And the sacral chakra, which is below the belly button, a few fingers, our womb space, no matter what gender or genders we are. Because this is the space of creation, creativity, our sacral chakra, which is above the belly button, a few to several fingers, our heart space, our throat chakra, our third eye, which many people might know about or have heard about, and then our crown. So just on the top or just above the head. And so when these are open, I didn't ask for this to be open. I was not asking for this. I had no idea what any of this experience was. I wasn't craving it. I wasn't practicing breath work, which I know now. I wasn't doing chakra work, none of this. I did not ask for this. It was just through universal alignment. I did not take any special hallucinating energy center opening plants while I was in the jungle. I did post about a year later, but not during. This was all just connecting within and the gift in this lifetime on this earth.
Wow. Now, marriage. You went on this adventure. You were a married woman. You had permission to do what you did. And then you came back totally transformed, totally tuned in. What happened to your marriage? Because our podcast focuses on women over 15, women who are at that crossroads, widowed, separated, divorced, trying to reinvent their lives. And which is really why I love talking to you, because a lot of women get lost at this age. They have no idea where to start. They have no idea whether to leave a relationship, what happens after they've left. Walk us through your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when I was younger, I never imagined myself being married. I wanted to be the cool aunt that traveled the world. And then I met this beautiful man, and he is a beautiful man in heart, and the father of my daughter, and he's a wonderful father. And all of a sudden it was there was a reason why we connected. And we did have a very nice marriage for quite some time. And my daughter was adopted. She was adopted from China at age 10 and a half. And so our unity had a very specific purpose: to become parents of this amazing young woman. And I call her a woman now because she's 25. She's actually getting married in a week and a half, and I'm officiating their wedding. So it's very sensitive to me right now in my heart space, very open. But yes, so this turning point, almost like the purpose of our relationship, was nearing its end for whatever reason. And I don't question it. And I never really have questioned it. It just is. I don't regret my marriage. And then it was time. It was time for the next phase in my life. And I think sometimes when I describe the story, some people think it's very selfish. So depending on our background and maybe perhaps how we were raised, our perception. But if we're following a path, and if you feel this deep desire of there's another stage in my life, and for whatever reason, if you have to let that relationship go, trust your intuition. And in our midlife is where it begins to grow the strongest.
Yes. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, it is your intuition that you have to tap into and trust. A lot of times we second guess ourselves. You think, oh, I can't start my life over. I'm this age, I'm too old. And we do it to ourselves. So let me take you back a few steps to the younger you.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what life has taught you throughout your life, if you could go back to the younger you and give yourself 3 nuggets of wisdom on how to live life, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
I think the first one is it's going to be okay. And what I mean by this, I had a very safe early part of my adulthood. And coming into, I turned 50 September 29th on the harvest moon this year. I'm so excited to turn 50. I just can't even tell you. The past few years, we've experienced a lot of loss and death in my family. And so this other part of my 50s that I'm stepping into my queendom years, my forest, my autumn queen, as my moon starts to dissipate from the full from the fullness, and as I embody more of my wisdom, meaning that it's okay for this transition as we grow older. Our bodies change, our minds change in other ways, even though we have all of these experiences and wisdom. Even just the peri to menopause piece in our life. I experienced menopause a little bit earlier than most people do. And so the changes that come with that, it's like a rite of passage. And so knowing that this part of my life is okay. And I think the other part of it's okay to listen to your intuition, like you brought up, and that it's okay to discard and keep moving forward. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Wow, I could talk to you all day. Tara, thank you so much for coming online and gracing us with your energy, with your presence. Your life experience is incredible, and I feel really honored to have the opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. I told you the Her Story movement is attracting some phenomenal women. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing woman. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making